No gas, no oil, no problem. Here's one system that handles it all. If you're looking to upgrade your heating system this fall or winter, then this is hands down the system you need to be looking at. These brand new all-electric.
Hi, gang, and welcome to the live chat. I think a lot of you know that I had surgery and I'm recovering, and I am not producing the kind of videos that I normally do. So I'm doing a live chat tonight and answering any questions that you might have. It's all off the cuff, it's all impromptu. You can see what my level of automotive knowledge really is. Ask questions away. Anybody out there? The Dean of Car Reviews. Awesome. Hey, and it's good that you can see and hear me. And thanks for that validation, because back a couple of weeks ago, it didn't work out so well. I was having major technical problems. Turns out I had software incompatibility. Even in the automotive world, software, it's a hassle. But anyways, I'm taking questions. And as long as there isn't anybody here asking a question, I'm going to start out with one of my favorite topics, and that is buying the powertrain that is right for you. I am a firm believer that you need to buy the vehicle that's right for you. There are a lot of people out there in the automotive world who try to talk people into things, and I think that's wrong. There are friends and family that are trying to talk you into different vehicles, but if they don't work for you, they don't work for you, right? However, I do believe that electric vehicles are actually better for most people. And, I'm not talking about these being pushed on you by the government and all that kind of stuff. I'm just saying that they can be a better vehicle for a lot of people. Typically, a lot less maintenance. You fuel at home. That's a real advantage. The brakes last longer because most of the stopping power is done regeneratively, and they're quieter. They're more refined. And even in a budget EV, that's what you're looking for in a luxury vehicle. So in many, many ways, an EV can be better. There's the argument that the infrastructure isn't built out. That's not really so much the case. However, if you're thinking about buying one, you should really check in your neighborhood and any routes that you might travel, pretty frequently. My guess is that you're going to be surprised. Typically, I find that the charging infrastructure is less built out in very rural areas, but along interstates, generally not a problem. My parents live in Alabama, the Gulf Shores area. My dad bought a Lyric back about a year ago, and before that he had an EV6. He's had no issues. Even in the Alabama area, they go to Florida all the time. They go to Mobile all the time. So I just think it's really smart to check it out. Just saying. But let me see here. Let's start answering some questions. I'll get off that soap opera, that soapbox. Let's see. Growing up, what car did I want? Anything that was really wild in the Hot Wheels area. I, like many of you, cut my teeth on Hot Wheels, and I even got to go to the Hot Wheels design studio about a decade ago, and that was a bucket list check off. It was really, really cool. But, I grew up in northern Minnesota, Duluth, and we didn't have an awful lot of, really exotic cars. The most exotic car that we would get generally would be a Camaro Z28. There were Camaros, but wow, a Z28. That was pretty special, maybe a Corvette. So I truly do remember seeing my Porsche 911 for the first time. And it was a turbo. I will never forget it. I kind of knew about Porsches. I mean, I was really young. But this was clearly different from anything that I had ever seen. And so I think, the Porsche was one of those things that I realized was a special car and never thought I would get one. But, here I am. The cars that I want, I like cars that have personality. I like cars that have great design. I like cars that are unique. I have oddly never owned a Toyota. I've never owned a Honda. I think they're great cars, but auto writers, we always like weird cars. So the first car I bought new was a Renault 5. Go figure. And it was a great car. It had that roof that you peeled back because, auto writers, we like weird cars. Let's go on. I really appreciate you interacting with the comment section. Yeah, well, I think that's important. I really do. Because this is a community. Obviously, if I wanted to make money, I would be doing something else. I'm not making a lot of money off this, but I do have a lot of fun. I'm at that point in my life where I just have that ability to be able to do it. I think my wife wishes that I would work a little bit less, but I think humans really need to have a purpose, and this is mine. Also, I in no way believe that I'm offering really good information and you guys are hanging on every word. The reality is, I do think I'm offering good information and different points of view. But most of us in the automotive world believe that people really aren't looking for information. They're looking for validation. They know what they want to get. They're going to buy a CRV, but they're checking in just to make sure that they're making the right decision. But every once in a while, I do open up choices to people. And considering that cars are very, very expensive, I think that's really, really important. It's a big decision. It's a big investment. Many people aren't buying houses or condos these days. So cars can be the biggest investment that some people will ever make. Do you still love the Taycan? You bet. I am working on the 1 year wrap up that's coming up. But again, I am taking time off because I had surgery and I'm kind of recovering still from that. It's a pretty extensive surgery. And so I'm doing a review every other week. Next week, there will be a review. And then I'm going to do another live event the week after that. And then I have the Corvette E-Ray that I shot before I had surgery. Amazing vehicle. I'm just going to, leave it there. Inspired by you. I'm about to buy CPO. The BMW i4 M50. Terrific vehicle. I have a neighbor about 5 houses down. He's leasing one and he loves that vehicle. In fact, he may just buy it when the lease comes up. It's a terrific vehicle. One thing I like about that car, it's completely normal. It's like a regular BMW sedan. So I'm going to scroll up here. The Model 3 was a lifesaver when I had to commute 300 miles each way on weekends to visit my ailing relatives. Yeah, gas prices. And, the way things are going these days, not to bring up politics, gas prices may be rising and EVs may become desirable again. Remember, if you charge at home, they can be very inexpensive to fuel up. Some people have free electricity overnight. We don't, but I think our electricity rate is 11 or 12 cents per kilowatt hour. So, it's super cheap. Hey, the notorious CRG. Thanks for the super thanks. Really appreciate it. All that money goes to the Rob Calero and Martin Campbell Coffee Fund. I take them out for breakfast and I buy them coffee when we go shoot. It's one of those times that guys get to be guys and we enjoy shooting a lot. But it's the one thing that I can't do is shoot the car while it's moving. So Rob and Martin are very gracious to come out on the weekends, even though they have full-time jobs that are very, very responsible. They're IT directors for a major law firm in the Seattle area. But thanks again. Have I decided what to do with ELR? I kind of want to keep it because it's such a unicorn. Hey, that car is Ferrari rare. There were only 2,800 of those made. A spectacular, beautiful failure on the part of General Motors. It's actually been a very, very good vehicle. I've had a couple sniggly things go wrong with it, but overall, it's been terrific. So I'm kind of hoping to keep it just because it's such a unicorn. And, auto riders, we love weird cars. Tom, which brands have the best ergodynamic seats for taller guys? Taller guys. Well, not being a taller guy, I really can't say. I do have a friend named Corey. Corey, if you're watching, I doubt you are. You're probably doing something productive. He's 6'7", and he has always had good luck with the German cars. He had an Audi Q5. That was a hybrid. That worked out really well for him. Right now, he's in a a Volkswagen ID4. And he seems to be perfectly happy with the seats and the headroom, which is, almost more important. I will also say that Volvo pretty much agreed across the board in the auto industry for having the best seats available. I will also say that the seats in my Porsche are terrific. It's one of those things that I actually forgot about when I was buying it, but they're incredibly supportive. You're just going to have to check with headroom. So, yeah. Here's the other one that everybody always forgets. Nissan. Nissan has something called zero gravity seats, and the reason that they got that name is because they studied the spine in zero gravity and how it falls. And so some orthopedic folks mimicked that. Nissan seats are very, very good. So if you're looking for something affordable, maybe the Nissan Rogue, which would probably have a lot of headroom. Mr. Harris, I hope that answered your question. Let's see here. Tesla Model 3 owner, but will change to a Rivian R2 when my name comes up. My thoughts. You know what? Rivian is a new car company, as Tesla once was. I would say I've seen the R2 and it looks great, and I think it's going to be a home run for that company. I really do. It's just the right size. It's small enough to work in the city, and it's big enough so that you can probably get 5 people comfortably in it. My concern with anything new from a newer company is whether or not all the kinks are worked out. I think that makes sense, right? I wouldn't be the first to buy it. I think I would maybe wait 6 months, 9 months, even a year, and see how things shake down. But they certainly got experience making the R1 or the S, the R1, the R1S, that's my feeling. That's just common sense, right? Okay. Are there any new EVs that are looking forward to reviewing in 2026? Rivian R2, yes. The Rivian R2. The other one that I'm interested in driving is the new Kia EV3, which is going to be about the size of the Chevy Bolt. And I'm not sure of the range yet because I don't know that the battery has been decided yet. But I'm looking forward to that because it's got great design. It's kind of got that bulldog look, almost like an electric Soul. May the Soul rest in peace. I think it was a mistake for Kia to 86 the Soul, but I think it's going to be relatively affordable. My guess is that they're going to show the EV3 off at the New York Auto Show. I know that there's others out there that I'm missing, but I'll come back to that. But that is actually one of them that I'm really looking forward to because it's going to be affordable. I'm also looking forward to driving the new version of the Chevy Bolt. My guess is that it's not that much different. But, even though it looks pretty much the same, a lot of the guts underneath are quite different. So those are two that I'm looking for. Anybody throw some out there in the comments because, I'm just kind of going along here. Let's see here. Wait. Mike Gall? Wow. Thanks for the generosity. That's terrific. I am definitely taking Rob and Martin out for lunch after the shoot on this. I really appreciate it. I have often said what I would really like to do is take all the ads off of my channel, all of them, and if every one of my subscriber, which is now close to 210,000, if everybody just gave me $1 a year, that would be awesome. But I know that's not going to happen. It's really hard to get that out of people. But that would be my dream to do that. But in the meantime, stuff like this, very generous, Mike, really appreciate it. It really helps because, my wife is very fiscally conservative. And so I always try to keep my budget out of the family budget. Okay, let's go up here. I hope you feel better, sir. BM 9074. I already do. In fact, actually, I spent the day doing a bunch of stuff around the house. I cleaned my office, which really needed it. And I went shopping at Costco. The folks at Costco are like, "Where have you been?" Because it's been probably 6 weeks since I've been there. And it's going to be a couple more weeks before I show up. But, I'm feeling much better. I've been off pain meds for about almost 10 days now. I used to be a news photographer at the NBC station in Seattle. For those of you that are here, King Television, KING. And I used to shoot a lot of medical stuff because I'm fascinated by anything medical. Not smart or dedicated enough to be a doctor, but I loved it. I probably shot 3 or 4 dozen surgeries. I've seen 4 or 5 babies born. But I have shot hip surgery, and really, it's more carpentry than surgery. Literally involves a skill saw. They cut off the femur and they pound a post into your bone. So no surprise that it takes the body a little while to recover from. And I'm doing pretty well, but I'm still a little fuzzy. The body's still a little bit stressed out, but doing well, thanks. Let's see here. Realistically, who drives 200 miles daily? Maybe a few, and the Taycan maybe. You know what? People are so used to the routine of going to the gas station, filling up, and knowing that they have 300, 400 miles of range. It's hard for them to understand that the EV lifestyle is different. And as I always say, it's very, very important for people to be able to charge where they sleep, aka at home. Because otherwise, if you have to go to a charging station and wait there, that's not convenient. That's not the way you should be doing things. Also, public DC fast chargers are very expensive. They tend to be about 5 times more here in the Seattle area than my home charging. Plus, you come home, click. Even if you're at the very end of your battery pack, you wake up the next morning and you have a full tank of gas. It really, really works. Most people don't drive 200 miles in a day, but everybody is different, and you can't make blanket statements about vehicles because everybody uses theirs differently. But I keep saying that I do believe that for most people, an EV can be a better vehicle. A lot of people say, oh, yeah, but most people live in condos and apartments. That's actually not true. I looked it up, the U.S. Census. 80% or so of Americans live in single-family homes. Now, not everybody can charge at that single-family home, and some people might be renting. In fact, probably, a good third of them are. But the reality is, in America, half of all drivers could easily get into an electric vehicle, and they would probably enjoy it more once they experienced it. But I've talked about that so many times. I think you all know that. But buy the vehicle that works for you. Okay, Matthew Moore, I really appreciate the quality of the videography you put out, and I do watch on your big screen. Good for you. I think about that every time I'm dotting my I's and crossing my T's because they look different on a computer screen than they do on the big screen. I do things like this very subtle stabilization, especially on those slider shots and the static shots, because on a large television, it amplifies the movements, and that can be distracting. So I stabilize all those shots. I color grade everything. I really, really do sweat the details because I got my start in life as a photographer. A lot of people think that I was a reporter, but I wasn't. The reporter part of it happened by accident because the person who was the host of our show didn't want to be on camera. He didn't want to talent the car review segments because he didn't know anything about cars. And I was very, very disappointed because I was going to shoot and produce and write these things, and he was going to be the talent. But the reality is, you do have to have somebody that does have some sort of authentic take on something like an automobile. And I was very disappointed that that segment wasn't going to go forward, but my boss said, Voelk, get a haircut, put on a clean shirt. You can do that. A trained monkey can be on TV. And here I am. Yeah. So anyways, I don't have any of them around here, but almost all the awards that I ever won were always for photography and editing. They're not for reporting. I think I have 5 Emmys for reporting, but the rest of them are all for photography and editing. But that and $5 will get you a cup of coffee at Starbucks. But thanks. I really do put too much work into the visuals, but it's kind of a labor of love. All right. Martin. I'm torn between a Hyundai Elantra N and a Volkswagen GTI SE. If I had to pick, which one would you take? Shame the N isn't a hatch. True. I like both cars for different reasons. I do believe, if I'm thinking correctly, that the Hyundai will cost you less money. I had a mechanic that helped me work on my Miata. He had an Elantra N, and he loved that car. And he was a mechanic. Really liked it. If I was going to go by brand reliability, just that blanket sort of thing, I think the Hyundai is probably a better choice. However, I think that the GTI has better utility because it's a hatch. And also, if I remember correctly, and it's been a long time, in fact, way too long since I've driven a GTI, GTIs always have that German sort of dynamic about them. They feel great. And I almost bought a GTI 4 times. Every time I was just about to buy it, some household thing came up and all that money went into a new furnace or a new water heater, or, we had to, my house is really old. It's like 105 years old. And so it had to have all the pipes replaced. And, I can do some of that. But the reality is I was also working and I had 2 kids and working 2 jobs. So I never got the GTI, but I've always loved them. The best I can tell you is because you have your needs and I have my likes and all. If you can, go out, test drive each one, and just go by the hairs on the back of your neck, because it's your car, right? Auto writers are always trying to, figure out what people might like. And we do point out the positives and the negatives of everything. But at the end of the day, you know you, and I don't know you. And you will have to make that decision. I would kind of lean towards the GTI myself, just because I've always thought about getting one of those. But I don't know. Good luck on that. 2 good cars, hard to choose between them. Uh-oh. Wait a minute. I'm sorry. Just want to tell you, I'm still rocking a 2006 Accord that you've owned for 12 years. Yeah. Everybody asks me what's the best car. Well, obviously it's different for everybody because, some people have families and some people are single. But one of the best cars you can have is a paid for car. And I've always said buy the car you love because you'll keep it longer and you'll maintain it better. At the end of the day, it's a better value. I tend to keep my cars a very long time. I don't worry so much about resale value, but good on you for keeping that Accord for so long. That's another car I almost bought a couple times, but for some reason I got diverted to other things. But, the Accord, it's a classic, and, hopefully sedans will come back sometime. Let's see here. When will I rejoin the New York Times? Well, there is a rumor that the automotive section, Wheels, is coming back. That's all I'm going to say, but we'll see. I think they have finally realized that we're at that stage in the world where everything's changing, and it's really important to cover, electrification and all the politics and everything that's going on about cars. And that's one of the reasons why I really like to cover the automotive industry, because I like cars, right? I love design. I love driving them. I love, pointing out what's more fun to drive, what's more practical and all that. But you know what? Cars are so much more than that. Cars are art. Cars are transportation, of course. Cars are status symbols. They're pop culture. They're engineering. They're politics. And it's really fun to get down into the minutia. There are so many things that I don't talk about in my reviews because I try to keep my reviews nice and tight. I really don't like to waste your time. I don't watch other people's reviews either. Every once in a while I'll see one and I'll just kind of, think. And usually the first 30, 40 seconds of are like, hey, everybody, hi, this is the new Volkswagen GTI. And, wow, hey, subscribe to the channel. And it's like a minute has gone by and nothing has been said. Whereas I really try to get right into it. If I'm not informing you, I'm at least trying to entertain you. Okay, I'm going down the rabbit hole on that. But anyways, New York Times could be a thing, could be soon. My favorite YouTube auto reviewer. Oh, well, thanks, Mom. No, it's Tom. Is there any joy in driving a Toyota Crown Signia? You know what? I like the Crown Signia. I think it's actually one of the best vehicles that Toyota makes. I like the design. It has sort of a Volvo-esque feel to it. My brother-in-law was trying to decide between a RAV4 hybrid and the Crown Signia. And this was at the time when the new RAV4 was about to come. And I'm really, really happy for him that he went with the Signia because he really likes it. It's kind of that halfway step between the RAV4, which personally I feel is a little bit more utilitarian than it should be considering its price tag. The Signia is a good solid step up. It seems more quiet. It seems more refined. The interior is definitely visually a nicer thing to look at. But it's not as high priced as a Lexus RX. I think the Signia is great. I think it's one of the most underrated vehicles in Toyota's stable because, the Grand Highlander is too big and the new or the old regular standard Highlander is a little bit long in the tooth. I've never really cared for that design, but, design, it's subjective. So yes, rock that Signia. I like it. He got one. It's in red and it's beautiful. He really likes it. Let's see. BMW iX3. Yes. From what I understand, the new iX3 is absolutely a rock star. I know somebody who's driven it and he just gushed and gushed and gushed. And, he said, I can't really talk too much about it because everything was under embargo, but he gushed about it. It's the Neue Klasse, and I think it's going to be one of those vehicles that reignites people's interest in electric vehicles. Obviously, it's going to be a little bit more expensive than a Chevy Equinox EV, but you get what you pay for. 2026 EX90. I'm going to have to take a look at that. I drove the one before, and I know that the new one is getting a new processor. There's a big upgrade when it comes to the software, and I know that the glass roof goes from a mechanical shade to electrochromic, and I kind of like Volvos. I like the vibe of Volvos. They're very calming. They're very soothing. They're soothing to drive. They're soothing to sit in. They have a really nice feel. But they're expensive, and if I'm going to be accurate, they have had some teething problems. I think we all know that. But I did drive briefly the previous generation EX90 back about before the LA Auto Show, because Volvo invited me to an event. And I really liked the vehicle, but at the time, I kind of figured you should wait. You should wait for the new one because it's got the new processor. The old one will get the new software, but the new processor unlocks some new features. So, you've waited this long. Why don't you wait for that? So, obviously, the choices that you would cross-shop would be Ioniq 9, Kia EV9, Lucid Gravity, Cadillac Vistic, which is really quite good. Electrification has been really, really good for Cadillac. It just makes Cadillac a Cadillac. They've done a really good job. And I'm really happy that General Motors is finally letting Cadillac be Cadillac, a real premium brand rather than just a gussied up Buick. So good luck with that. Let's see here. Data Sickness, thanks for the $10. Really appreciate it. I mean, I'm making all this money. I don't know. I may actually spend a little bit on me rather than just taking out Rob and Martin. Any leads on getting my hands on a Polestar 4? And the 3 has the upgraded 800 architecture. I have driven briefly the Polestar 4, and I like it. The fact that it doesn't have a back window doesn't really bother me because it has the camera rear view mirror. And in many ways, that is actually better. You can actually see better. I don't know if you've ever used one of those, but you do have to sort of refocus when you're looking at that display rather than a mirror. Your eye just naturally doesn't have to refocus on a mirror. But I suggest that you go out there and try it and see if you like it. The folks at Polestar were very honest. They said most people, it takes a day or 2 or 3 to get used to it, and then after that, they don't even think about it. I liked it, but then again, I like cars with personality, and that car definitely has a personality. And my take on the old 400 volt architecture versus the new 800 volt, well, obviously, yeah, I would prefer the 800 volt. It charges faster and all that. But here's the thing. Think about it. If you can get a screaming deal on one of the old ones with 400 volts, okay, the charging speed is going to be a little bit less. I sort of feel like this whole thing about, oh my gosh, now it charges from 10 to 80% in 22 minutes at the right DC fast charger, and the old one took 28 minutes. And it's like, should that be the reason why you buy the car? I don't know. If you road trip a lot, maybe, but I really do feel that for most people, you should really only buy an electric vehicle if you can charge at home. That's the real advantage of having an EV. You can't gas up, an old Camaro at home, but you can charge up an EV at home. That's the real convenience of it. And so, okay, it takes another 5 minutes to get to 80%. If you're like me, don't you have emails to return, phone calls to make, all that kind of stuff? Maybe go grab a burger. I'm just saying. Anyways, good luck with that. I am going to try to get a Polestar 4, but it's going to be at least a couple months because I already have my queue of cars. And like I said, I'm kind of going to ramp up slowly after the surgery. So, Fade Logic, $20. Thanks. Coffee Fund, say no more. Yeah, say no more. That's great. That's going to be really good coffee. We have some really good coffee in Seattle, but again, guys, I really appreciate the donations. I'm just here to do good work. I believe that good work is its own reward, but $20 for coffee, also a good reward. Thanks, man. Here we go. My trackpad is a little bit. BMW iX3, Volvo EX60, Cadillac Optic, Polestar 4. Of those, I have not. I've seen the Polestar 4. It's not going to be as usable as the SUV type vehicles. I would say that Polestar 4 is really more of a hatchback. Still very usable, but I haven't driven the iX3. Hear great things about it. I have seen pictures of the EX60. It looks great. Looks very Volvo-esque. My brother has an Optic. He loves it, and I, of course, have done a review on the Optic. The Optic, I believe, is the smallest of all of them, and I also think that the Optic is probably the best value. This year, it gets more power, standard, and comes standard with NACS now, I'm pretty sure. I cover these cars and then, I move on, and while I try to keep very up to date, Sometimes I miss things. But the reality is, if you can get out there and test drive as much as you can, an auto writer can point you in the right direction and try to give you what the vibe of the car is and all that kind of stuff. But there is nothing like getting to a dealership and, at the very least, sitting in it, checking it out, making sure it fits you, make sure that the back seat is big enough and the cargo area is big enough. I know it's a hassle. Nobody likes to go to dealerships. I actually know a couple dealerships that are quite good here in the Seattle area, and I have had very good luck. And no, it's not because people recognize me and all that. I mean, occasionally that happens, but the reality is a lot of people don't know me from Adam, right? Nobody's sitting around watching YouTube videos on cars 24 hours a day. But I think those are all really good choices, and I'm really looking forward to driving the EX60 and the BMW. I really do like the optic. I think it's a great value. I think my brother paid, I want to say $51,000 for it. It was just only slightly more expensive than a fully loaded Chevrolet Equinox EV, and it had an AKG sound system and a much nicer interior and better driving dynamics. So I just tend to think that the optic is an unusually good value. Matthew Moore, you retracted your message. What? Send it again. Installing a home EV charger, would you future-proof and install 100 amp circuit or 50? You know what? If you can throw a 100 amp circuit in, yeah, of course. Because one, the person that ends up in your house after you, maybe you're not going to sell your house for a long, long time. They might have a big pickup truck. They might have a Chevy Silverado EV. And in that case, a 100 amp circuit would really be helpful. If it's easy to do, I would throw the 100 amp circuit in. Most EVs won't need it. It's a little bit like cutting butter with a chainsaw, but it can't hurt. I mean, I don't know electrical all that well. If it's a couple $100 more, why not? You're doing it. Why not? Thoughts on the Macan EV as a used EV? I would do it. My wife is considering an EV, and she probably won't go for a Porsche, though. She's kind of a reverse snob. There are lots of great cars that would really fit her really, really well, but if it's a BMW, Mercedes, or a Porsche, she's like, I will not be seen in a car like that. She would much rather be seen in a Kia. She's very modest. She's terrific. But yeah, I mean, I think that architecture is quite good. I think, it's too bad that Porsche isn't selling more of those, but they are expensive. I'm a big fan of the Macan, both the EV and the gas ones. I mean, I like smaller vehicles, and so I highly prefer Macan over Cayenne and Panamera. Data sickness. Yeah, 60 amp at least. I mean, if you can install the 100, even if you don't put the 100 amp charger in, as long as you've got the circuit there, you're future-proofing things. So, thoughts about the time that automakers might wind up being niche manufacturers producing ICE vehicles because of withdrawal of government support of EVs. That's a possibility, and that would be a shame. You know what? Think about it. We're one of the very few countries in the world that doesn't use the metric system. I understand that in America, the way we use vehicles is different than many places in the world. We typically travel further distances, whereas, say, in Europe and Asia, they use smaller vehicles and they go shorter distances. But that said, I've said it a million times. I really honestly do believe that electric vehicles can be better vehicles for many, many people. And road tripping in an electric vehicle is really not that hard. It just isn't. By the time you plug in and go from 10 to 80%, I've done this a number of times. By the time you use the bathroom, go to Taco Bell and grab some food, I've been well over 85% charge rate. And the way it works is you travel the bottom of the battery. So you charge up to 80%, which is when it throttles to save the battery. And then you move on. You go to 80%, you move, go down to 10%, lather, rinse, repeat if you're driving across the country. It's actually a faster way of doing it. And, let's say that's 230 miles. Well, you know what? 3 hours of sitting in a car, I'm ready to get out of the car. I don't care how comfortable the seats are. I either want to stretch my legs or I want to get something to eat, or I need to go to the bathroom, or somebody in your family needs to go to the bathroom. It's just that simple. There's just a lot of bad information out there. You just need to look at your own use case. Okay. But you know what? I sure hope not. To be honest with you, American companies do have a history of kind of taking the easy, short route and kind of basically screwing themselves. And it could be a case where maybe waiting for the battery technology to ramp up. We keep hearing about solid state batteries and how they will juice up in 5 minutes. I think Toyota has been saying they're 2 years away for 14 years. So when they show up, we'll see. I'm just that kind of guy. I'm not going to be saying, hey, look, if you just wait for 3 years, solid state batteries are going to be around, they'll charge up really fast, and life will be great. Because I don't know. There are all sorts of challenges with solid state batteries. But if they do come, and if they are as good as everybody promises, then I do believe it'll transform the industry, because then they could be juiced up more like gas cars. We'll see. Bra 3877, thoughts on the 2026 RAV4 XSE? I've deposited on XS, slightly worried about seat comfort. Wow, 70 to 100 miles a day. Can you get into a current generation? To be really honest with you, I don't remember what the seat comfort was like in the one that I drove. And, I drove 3 of them that day, but I never really got in them long enough to know whether or not the seats are very, very supportive. It's not like Toyota makes bad seats, but they aren't known for their seats, not like Nissan is. But, Nissan does not have a hybrid, and my guess is that if you're driving that much, you're thinking about maybe saving some money on gas. It's trying to think of anybody else. It's funny, you talk about seats. For years and years and years, my wife literally doesn't know one car from another. She's got some fine qualities, but she is car blind. She really is. And she would know Hondas by just sitting down in them. She would get in and she'd go, "Oh, this is a Honda, isn't it?" She hated those seats so much. They just didn't work for her, right? I mean, it's going to happen. But it's one of the reasons why we didn't get an Accord and why we never got a CRV. She just can't stand the seats. The best I can tell you is try to go check them out. Look at the length of the cushion. If it doesn't give you full thigh support, then that will be problematic. Make sure it can be adjusted so that you're comfortable with your hands, on the wheel in the proper position. But I remember them being neither fish nor fowl. I thought they were okay seats. So, and RAV4s are pretty expensive these days. So, you were just going to ask about Crown Signia, made in Japan too. Yeah, people seem to think that made in Japan is the cat's meow. Maybe, I don't know. The plants that they've got here in the U.S. are run with the same precision. There might be some slight differences, but hard to know. Japan, they are subject to more tariffs, though who knows how that's working out these days, right? With all this craziness happening. God, unbelievable. We've never been able to get a really good answer from the automakers, even though we know exactly what they're thinking. They're thinking the price of our vehicles have been jacked up by 15%. But nobody will go on the record saying that they hate tariffs, because of course they hate tariffs. But tariffs. Owning a series of VW, I bought a BMW M Coupe. Nice, congratulations. A unique looking car. It's not the everybody calls it the clown car. Is it that? My neighbor used to have one, and she loved that car. And then my neighbor across the street forgot to set his parking brake, and it rolled down his driveway and totaled her car. That was one less M Coupe on the road. But yeah, people love those things. Let me know down further in the thing. But it was as good as... let's see. I also got tired of washing, waxing, and treating the leather seats. I love my e-Golf because it's very enjoyable to drive. I really like the e-Golf. Obviously, it had range issues, but I drove one briefly. I never did a review on it. I liked it. I kind of like Volkswagen's very subdued, but yet very understated, classy design. E-Golf was great. Overall thoughts on the Lucid Gravity, thinking about getting one. What are my thoughts? Your lease ends in a year. By the time your lease ends in a year, my guess is that the software will be really good. They've already made great strides. When I got the Lucid Gravity for my review, it had just gotten a substantial software update. Still had a few little quirks and bugs, and I pointed those out. I could never recreate them on camera. They're like poltergeists. But anyways, from what I understand, and somebody suggested that I start writing down and saying what the version of the software is, and I think that's a great idea. From what I understand, the newest version of the software that came out about 3 weeks after I gave the Gravity up is even better. Like, people are saying there are new features, everything is working more smoothly. So I would revisit it, and it might be one of those vehicles that I revisit, because you can change a lot in a vehicle with software. Obviously, it's going to look the same and all, but the screens, the way they operate, sometimes the speed and the fluidity that they operate with can really change just depending on the software. It's one of those that you should consider. There are also the other ones that I keep saying. I'm always big about, yes, you have that one particular car in mind, but I would look at the Ioniq 9, the EV9, the Volvo EX90, and the Cadillac Vistic. All of those are very, very competitive. And Rivian R1S. By that time, you might even be able to get a good deal on a off-lease Rivian R1S. Or Vistic probably won't be up, but Vistic is really nice. It's, General Motors, very underrated when it comes to their EVs. They do a good job. I like them. Mono Country Covers. Thanks for the donation. I do appreciate it. I hope you're enjoying the reviews as much as I enjoy making them. It's really a lot of fun. Keeps me out of trouble too. It lets me be creative as much as I, can be creative. The thing is that, I try to be a little bit creative, but the reality is it's a review, and, sometimes you start getting fancy and going into weird tangents, and then it's not as useful. So sometimes the reviews are, maybe a little bit more boring than I would like them to, but, I like to have fun. My whole thing with these reviews is like, we're sitting around talking, having a beer, chatting, If you guys tried Athletic Brewing, it's non-alcoholic beer. It tastes like real beer. It's not like O'Doul's. This stuff is great. Apparently, it's the best-selling beer, period, at Whole Foods now. I really like it. Also, 60 calories. I get to keep my boyish figure. Also, no alcohol, so when I'm live on YouTube, I'm not making a fool out of myself. Anyways, I'm plugging this for free. Athletic, you make a great product. All right, you have a Polestar 3. Oh, wow, this thing, my trackpad, my computer's wonky. The new MacBook Pros came out today, and I think I'm going to have to buy a new one. In the driveway, curious about the driving dynamics. You do charge at home 95% of the time. Data sickness, perfect. I love the design of the Polestar 3. In white, it definitely looks like a stormtrooper, and it's useful. You're curious about the driving dynamics. Well, you have one. You should check. I'm trying to remember. Does it have the Olin shocks where you have to manually firm them up? I think some of them had it. I think they're changing to adaptive dampers, which I think is better. But you know what? Everybody talks about driving dynamics, and I love sporty cars, right? I mean, I've always bought towards the sporty end of the spectrum on all the vehicles that I've ever bought. But the reality is, if you're buying a car for the family and all, 90% of the driving that you're doing really is more comfort based. Hate to admit it, but it's the truth. We all talk about 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. That's great, and it can be a lot of fun, but really hard on your tires. Plus, I know in Seattle, there's really no place I can do 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds because there are always cars in front of me. There's always traffic. When you're out in the middle of nowhere and you know that you can be safe and you can really enjoy your car, that's terrific. I mean, that's what we live for. But growing up in Minnesota, being a pragmatic Midwesterner, I am one of the few auto writers that goes, well, maybe think about it. I would much rather have a better handling car than a high performance car, said the guy that has a Taycan 4S. But I didn't get the turbo or the Turbo S. So, you've got the car. You should assess whether or not you like the handling or not. Let's take on the ICCU issues with the Kia, Hyundai, Genesis EVs. The word is that the new one is finally fixed. Martin has a Genesis electrified GV70, and he is now on his second unit, and they claim this is the new one and it should be fine. I know everybody says that electric vehicles are simplified, and in many ways they are, but in other ways they're actually more complex. And the software and the electronic control units can be kind of daunting. And especially, once you're new at that kind of thing, you're going to make some mistakes. I do know that both Hyundai, well, all three of them, Hyundai, Kia, and Genesis, have been very good about swapping them out and fixing them. They're not shirking their responsibility. They've been good about it. I think an ad just came up. Look at that. Let's skip this ad. Sorry, gang, an ad came up. You know what? I to be really honest with you, I don't know. All I know is that from what I understand, the newest revision of that control unit is much better and a lot less prone to failure. I guess we wait and see. It's one of those things that I do kind of keep my eye on things. The reality is, and let's touch on reliability. It's really tough to talk about reliability because reliability has so many different aspects about it. You have where the car lives, like where I'm from, Duluth, Minnesota. It's much harder on a car than it is in Seattle, where it's extremely temperate. There isn't salt on the road. It's not wild temperature swings. It's how a car is maintained. I typically don't shy away from a car that, has, I've never bought a Toyota or a Honda because they're the most reliable cars. I don't buy for reliability. I buy for design and driving dynamics and enjoyment of the car and utility. Typically, I haven't had many issues with my car. I did have a Volvo that had a transmission that failed. They replaced it under warranty. I just got some bad news that the half shafts on my wife's Chevy Volt are going, so that's $2,000 I didn't want to spend, but it's the way it goes. Anyways, I'm going down the rabbit hole on that, but reliability, it's tough to nail down. Drove a Polestar 4 in Sweden recently. Didn't even notice the rear window missing. Right, yeah. I mean, you probably just used that rear view camera mirror. And it does take a little while for your eyes to focus. But, humans, we don't like things that are different. We tend to shy away from things that are different. We're very suspicious. But I drove it. I really didn't have much of an issue. But it is something that I will always point out to people because it is one of those things that really makes that car different. But I like Polestar design. So, it's one of those things. Personally, I would get the 3 because I like that design better. But, 4 is a nice car. Drove my Tesla Model 3 2 years ago from San Diego to Banff. Banff is beautiful. Don't get there enough, and had no problems charging. So you're sold on driving with an EV. Yeah. And I remember even years ago when I went to Banff, noticing that the supercharger network was very ample and that there were no issues. The reality is almost all EVs now can use the supercharger network. So it really opened up the charging network all across the country. It works pretty well. I always kind of wonder what people are thinking when they say the charging network isn't built out. It kind of is. It needs a little bit more development, especially in rural areas, but it's doing pretty well these days. And there's the new group IONNA, which is a consortium of the automakers. They're putting in, I want to say, 2,800 chargers all around the country. Really fast ones, too. I was in Alabama at a Buc-ee's, and there were 400-volt Mercedes or kilowatt Mercedes charge terminals, like 8 of them. And Buc-ee's has always had Tesla superchargers. So you have your choice. The thing is that for most of the other EVs other than Tesla. Tesla superchargers, unless they're the very, very, very few V4s that are out there, they're not as fast. I would rather go with Electrify America or Iona or EVgo. Typically those are 350, and they charge really fast, almost too fast sometimes. You can't get back from the bathroom before you're like at 85-90%. Why is the fuel injector in my 2025 WRX so loud? It's under a lot of pressure and probably not an awful lot of sound insulation, because they're trying to keep the car light, keep the insulation off the hood. It's been a while since I've been in a WRX, so I don't know. Does it have a engine shroud cover to help keep the noise down? In sometimes the automakers believe that in a performance car, people want to hear those things. You want to hear the turbo whistle. You want to hear the injection sound. You want to hear the engine. So can't tell you there, because it's been a while since I've driven a WRX, unfortunately. Those are always a lot of fun. Robert Brill, you like my videos? Thank you. I do appreciate that. 2026 Forester Hybrid Touring versus the 2026 Chevy Equinox for your elderly mother-in-law who has always owned a BMW sedan. Wow. Maybe a BMW SUV, an X2, X1. Why a Forester or a Chevy Equinox when she's been a BMW gal? If you can, fill me in on that as we go down here, I would be happy to answer that. Okay. Oh wow, sorry, my screen is kind of just blowing up. Wow. Take model with kids, mother out to Chicago and back every summer. It's pretty easy. Yes, it's not that hard to travel in an EV. Think about it. A lot of people made it to the West Coast in a covered wagon. It's not that hard to travel in an EV. I'm just saying. I think if you're not used to it, baby steps, try shorter distances first if you really feel that uncomfortable. But the reality is, with all the routing software and all that kind of stuff, it's pretty easy. When will I be testing the new the iX3? I hope to test it soon. I really do. It's one of those cars that I think is going to. It has the there's the very real possibility that it could be the vehicle of the year. I've heard so many good things about it from people who have already driven it in previews over in Europe. So, in pre-production prototypes and all that. So I will get to it as soon as I can, because it's one of those things that's on my must drive list. So there's your answer. Let's see. SLK23. I ended up selling it with no regrets. Cool car in many ways, but yeah. Fast car is too much temptation for me. I drive a Taycan. I really bothered my wife the other day. She doesn't like it when I drive fast, but there was a guy on my tail and I just had to lose him. I understand. ID4 might be a good EV choice for your wife. It is, but you know what? She likes small cars. In fact, we were talking about it today because we were trying to figure out, are we going to keep the Volt, or are we just going to sell it and maybe get something, smaller, because she likes a smaller vehicle. Because the car that she had before the Volt was a original year or original generation Kia Soul. And she likes the small compact size, and she's a petite woman, and it's much easier to see out of something like that. So probably something like the Bolt or the new Kia EV3 is something that I'm thinking we'll be going after. I like small cars. Americans seem to like really, really large cars, but especially in Seattle, while it's not San Francisco or Boston, where streets are very, very narrow and all, it's nice to have a small car. It's nice to have something that's like an urban attack vehicle. Let's see, I haven't driven any of the Chinese Vs that we're being protected from. I have not. Otherwise, maybe kind of sort of the Volvo EX30. And I like the EX30. It's really fun to drive. I like the small size. It's outrageously fast. But I do not like the fact that it literally has, I think there's like 2 or 3 hard controls in the thing. And I don't like that. I really like progress. I am not one of those people that goes, I remember when things were great and everything had a button. There are too many features these days for everything to have a button. You have to have software-based cars. But there are not enough buttons in that car. In fact, I would say that my wife would really, really like that car, but I also know that the lack of buttons would drive her up the wall. And I understand that. I like it, especially the little cross-country version. It's pretty cool. So no, I haven't, and I really, really want to. I keep hearing from people who have driven them that yes, they are good, but I think a lot of consumers are confused with, they hear that you can get an EV for $18,000 or $20,000. And that's all well and good, but the reality is most Americans would not drive a vehicle that small. We don't like vehicles the size of EX30s. It's just it's hard to find them. It really is. I like smaller cars. Most Americans don't. It's why the automakers don't offer them. It's why Toyota doesn't have the Yaris anymore and Chevy doesn't sell the Spark. They just don't sell. And yeah, when you move up to the larger ones, then yeah, that's great. But there's so much to talk about the Chinese vehicles and whether or not they should be allowed into the United States. But the reality is the Chinese government has so heavily subsidized those vehicles that in a way it's an unfair advantage. And your neighbors, they're Americans that are at real danger of losing their jobs and all that kind of stuff. I mean, I'm not going to get into politics or anything like that, but the reality is one of the reasons we have a government is to protect us from certain things. And yeah, we all want cheap cars, but I don't know. It's a little bit too much for me. Love the toilet paper test. Yes. Yes. You want to hear the reason why the toilet paper test came about? Is because originally it was going to be, it fits in the trunk. And the first car I ever got as a tester when I worked at King TV in Seattle was an Audi A4 Cabriolet. And I was just at Costco and I looked at the toilet paper and I went, hey, I need toilet paper. I'm going to get 2 packs because I think that's all that's going to fit in that trunk. And sure enough, it was. And so that was the first it fits in the trunk thing, but it was always going to be something different. But my boss looked at it and goes, that's brilliant. It's a standardized measurement metric and it's funny. So I ended up calling up Costco and saying, hey, can I do that? And they said, sure. So I just go in there, grab it. I walk out, say, hey guys, I'm checking out a dozen. And I fill the trunk full of toilet paper and then I wheel it back and I restock it. Everybody thinks I work there. And, it's a little weird for a guy to be hauling around a dozen packs of toilet paper. So, anyways, there you go. A little background on the toilet paper test. I really enjoyed your Taycan videos. I have a sister car, the e-tron GT. Yeah. I consider buying a CPO. Yeah, and I also looked at the e-tron GT, but I could never find one in the color that I liked, or it had a really weird interior. I just ran into a bunch of unusual ones. The one that I tested, I really, really liked, but I could never really find one. Plus, the Taycan is sort of near and dear to my heart because I knew about that car before anybody else. When I was working for the New York Times, Porsche gave me a real good backgrounder before anybody else. I knew that it was coming as the Mission E at, I want to say, at the auto show. I'm drawing a blank. Geneva Auto Show. The only thing I didn't know well beforehand was the name. I knew that they weren't going to call it the Mission E, but I was as surprised as anybody when they called it the Taycan. So in many respects, my Taycan is almost like a souvenir of one of the best long-range pieces that I ever did. So it's cool. Just drove it around a lot today. I hope you're enjoying yours because I really love mine. Yes, Costco, Athletic Brewing. That's where this is from. So does VW have a future? Yeah, VW has a future. Of course it has a future. They make some really good cars. Every company stumbles. Look at Nissan. Nissan has stumbled, and they stumbled for a while. I believe that Nissan is clawing its way back. They've got some really good products. Their CVTs have been reliable for years and years and years. It's the reputation that just won't go away. I was in an Uber back a couple weeks ago, just before the surgery, and there was a guy who was driving a Rogue. I want to say it was a 2022, and he had 180,000 miles on it, and he never had an issue with the transmission. He just did the services. I know it's anecdotal, but I think it kind of proves all the data shows that they're doing pretty well these days. But yes, I do think that Volkswagen has a future. It just kind of needs to do a little bit of soul searching. I really like the new Tiguan quite a bit. I understand that they're having some problems with the high output engine. Apparently, the turbo problem is, from what I understand, a software issue. Software. Everything is software these days. Yeah. I'm always, you know what? I don't root for any car company. I root for everybody to do well because I think choice is great. All of us with the most amount of choice is the best way you can go. I mean, we should have the choice of, 20 different automakers. Our choice of what car to buy should be difficult. We should be going, there are so many great cars out there, I don't know what to choose. In a perfect world, that would be great. Do I think Audi will continue to offer the e-tron given the retreat of all the automakers? I think so. The e-tron GT, I guess so. I don't know how many. There are a lot of the automakers are coming out with sales and stuff like that. My guess is that they don't sell an awful lot of those. But the other thing is it's already engineered. It's already in production. So now it's just, coasting down the assembly line. It wouldn't surprise me if they canceled it, but I would like to see it. And I've heard nothing about it. So, it's a great car. Hope it sticks around. Looking for a used ELR. Is it worth finding a 2016 updated version or the 2016 had some real differences. I mean, there are some cosmetic changes, like the grille and the back end. It also got the new Cadillac for, back then, the new Mondrian logo, whereas my car has the wreath Laurel logo. I really like the 2016 better, but even when I was buying mine, the 2016s commanded quite a premium. And I was just trying to buy it. I bought my ELR after the federal tax credit. I think it was $34,000. That was a screaming deal. I think the sticker price on my car was $82,000. And I think a lot of people think that auto writers get these great deals from the automakers. I didn't. I bought it from a dealership in Wisconsin. I think it was Holtz. But anyways, good luck. They're hard to find. They're I think there's because they only made 2,800 of them. I want to say that there's only about 2,100 left. Part of the problem is they don't make parts, and so if they get into a fender bender and the taillights and or the headlights are damaged, the car has to be totaled because you can't find parts for them. Good luck. It's a neat car. It's a real unicorn. The Polestar 2 had the manual adjusted. Polestar 3 performance has air suspension. All right, great. That's what I figured, but so many cars and they change from model year to model year. But the dynamics for the 400 volt to the 800 volt, just more curious. Yeah, they're expensive. It's a luxury brand and it's going to be expensive. Nice materials inside. Nice materials cost money. You missed red light, green light. You know how long that took me to do those graphics? Sorry, guys, man. On a good day, it takes me, shooting, writing, editing. On a good, easy day, it takes me like 45 hours to do these things because I really do try to get them right. And you know what? Any writer knows it's a lot easier to write long than it is to write short, but I don't want to waste your time. The graphics for red light, green light just took so much time. And it also added about a minute and a half to each one of the pieces. And the reality is that performance on YouTube depends on how long people watch. So if they watch over 50%, then YouTube offers my videos more to more people. And red light, green light really extended everything out. So these days at the end now, I'm just saying, here's my positives, here are my negatives. Thanks a lot. Subscribe to the channel and see you later. I like red light, green light too. So maybe someday, and if I can bail Evil Twin out of jail, in Mexico, then maybe I'll do that again too. Thank you, Al Ryan, AWOL Ryan. Thanks, man. Thanks for the donation. I really appreciate that. I'm kind of cleaning up today. I do appreciate it. I need to buy a new MacBook Pro because I don't know if you guys know, I ended up putting my laptop, which was very expensive because when you're doing really good work with 4K professional video, you need horsepower, and I had a top-end MacBook Pro that I put into my backpack, not realizing there was a banana in there. And that banana, after 3 or 4 days, got a little juicy, and it destroyed one of the USB ports, and some of the juice got onto the motherboard, so it's being a little bit finicky. So yeah, I need to spend $5,000 on a new MacBook Pro because I need a lot of storage space because my files are very large, which is why these look really good on a big screen TV. Just trying to do quality work. But $499. Going towards that MacBook Pro. And same with you, George. Question. Evil Twin. Who's most likely to put manual in a hybrid? GR Prius or Prelude SI? I don't think you're going to see it. I don't know if you guys saw in the automotive news the other day, but there's a guy, one of the top executives from BMW, basically said, sorry, in the high performance cars, it's too expensive to develop a new manual transmission to handle all that power. So either power is going to remain the same, or frankly, the automatic is just going to be the only way you get a high performance BMW M car. And I do believe, and it's not going to be anytime soon, that, down the road, you're going to be buying an electric car. I know people love their sounds from their, I know, I get it. I understand and I sympathize. But electric cars can also be fun. But, it's not looking good for the manual transmission. I keep my Miata, an original year 1990, for that reason alone. It's almost meditation going out in that car and flicking through the gears. It's just not looking good, So I don't think either of those cars is going to get a manual transmission. Evan Katz, you retracted your thing. Oh, okay. Wow, man, this thing. Anything close to a Y performance in the two-row EV SUV market? Yeah. Optic V is supposed to be quite good. And honest to God, if you haven't driven the Ioniq 5N, you don't know what you're missing. I know everybody goes, ooh, manual or artificial shifts and engine sounds. It's not that. It's so much more than artificial shift feels. It actually has a red line that the car will actually go up against a red line. It's loads of fun. I really like the Ioniq 5N. And I really came close to buying one of those over my Taycan. But the reality is, I just got such a great deal on my Taycan that I stretched financially and I got that car. I would have been very, very happy with an Ioniq 5N. There's also next week's review is going to be the updated version of the Ford Mach-E GT. Perfectly wonderful car. My guess is that you can probably get a pretty good deal on one right now. It doesn't have that motor fade over 60 miles an hour anymore. I don't think it is as much fun as the Ioniq 5N. And, obviously you say you're looking for an EV SUV, but the 6N is supposed to be better performing than the 5N, partly because it's lower to the ground and all that kind of stuff. There's also the Porsche Macan EV. And, sometime soon they're going to start coming off lease. I know somebody who bought one a year ago, or didn't buy one. They leased one about a year ago. So there are options out there. And I'm sure I'm missing one. But 5N, it's a lot of fun. Why I don't have at least 500K subscribers. Thanks, man. Thanks, Evan. The reality is I actually have a human that I've been able to talk to at YouTube, and he told me don't worry so much about the subscribers, that it's actually some people who have lots of subscribers. They're not real subscribers. They bought the subscribers, and YouTube knows who they are and who they aren't. And some people buy views. I buy what I get what I get. So, wow, I've been at this for a while. I need to start wrapping up because I think my wife has dinner on. I think I'm hearing something in the background, something like that. She should text me. Let me check my texts. No? Okay. But really, honestly, this is a little bit... I've gone longer than I really need to, but I'm going to go through these quickly. Us Voelk guys, we talk too much. What's going on here? Sorry, technical issues. Oh. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Sorry, folks. 99 Ridge Road, bought a 25 Subaru Forester Hybrid with a sports trim. Hope you approve. Doesn't matter if I approve. It really doesn't. You know, it's your car. Buy the car that works for you. Honestly, you know, here's the other thing that I think, people forget is that people buy cars for status symbols and all because they want to impress people. But the reality is your friends and your family know you. They know you for the bozo that you are. So you're not going to be impressing them with a car. In fact, they might be looking at you and saying, you bought a Maserati? You can't afford a Maserati. And they think you're even more of a bozo. Buy the car that works for you. And the Forester, obviously a very popular car, a very useful car. And I think the hybrid is actually the best powertrain for the Forester. So I hope you're enjoying it. In fact, actually, we were just at the Subaru dealership today because we're trying to figure out if my wife's going to get a new car. I was looking for the new Uncharted, and they didn't have one there. So, Wits End Cottage, sorry you're late. That's okay. I forgive you. Forester for safety, but wife likes the Chevy. Can we talk about safety really, really, really quick? The reality is whether or not a car saves your life in this day and age, all of them are pretty darn safe. It's not like there's going to be a night and day difference. It's just not going to happen. All of them have automatic emergency braking. Things slow down before you get into a crash. They have crumple zones. I know that the automakers are trying to sell you on safety, but the reality is cars are very, very safe these days. You don't have to buy a Subaru or a Volvo. I know some of them are rated better than others, but the reality is some of the safety ratings literally depend on whether or not the headlights do a certain thing. That's the difference between a top pick and a top safety pick plus. It just is. So, you want a safe car because it's your family. And my family has totaled 3 Volvos. So, I have a little experience on this. I was never in the car, but they have protected my family very well. But the reality is the Chevy should be plenty safe. And so should the BMW, although, yes, as my friend says, when you own a BMW, you're a member of the $1,000 club. You go in for an oil change and they find something else, that'll be $1,000. So safety is key. Pay attention to safety. There's no doubt about that. Honda also is a safe vehicle. Toyota, also a safe vehicle. So many cars are so safe these days. You've got an army of airbags to protect you. I'm just saying that look at safety, but then also look at the vehicle because you've got to be happy with the vehicle. Yes, safety, important, but being satisfied with the vehicle means that you're going to keep it longer. Okay? So that's just my take on it. I think other people would probably disagree because everybody disagrees on everything these days. But, just keep that in mind when you're looking at things. Okay? And good luck. Did I get to test? No, I was not part of the R2. I'm sort of off Rivian's radar screen. Hope to change that because I think it's a really cool company. You like small cars too, easy to park. Yes, e-Golf can carry an amazing amount of stuff. Who needs an SUV? Right? Right. Most people don't need an SUV, but that's what people are buying. Porsche coming out with an EV version of the Boxster this year. There is some controversy whether or not that's actually going to see the light of day. The new Audi version of the TT is also based on that platform. There is some chatter that Porsche has had so much trouble engineering the new 718 EV platform to perform the way it needs to, that it has gone so far over budget and over time that they may abandon it. I hope not, because that is a car that I would actually like to buy. Of course, used, but because I think it could be a really, really, really fun car. But there is some talk that it may not make it to market. But I hope that it does. There's all sorts of rumors in this business, and I don't know. The Audi Concept C, which was I was just talking about, I heard has gotten the green light. I have heard that too. There was an Audi executive that said that, okay, the Macan and Boxster, or the Boxster and the Cayman may not make it, but our car definitely is. I mean, obviously, if Audi is going to be doing it, it just makes so much more financial sense, economies of scale for Porsche to do that. But, stranger things have happened. Never say never. I want to see that thing in person because the front end is a little funky to my eye, but I have also learned that you never judge things by pictures. All right. Speaking of Taycans, Active Ride. I don't know. I haven't used Active Ride. I've heard it's phenomenal. My car handles phenomenally, but apparently Active Ride is a palpable next level. Looking forward to it. I don't get a lot of Porsche press cars up here in the Northwest because we're up here way out of the way. They tend to live down in the LA area, unfortunately. My Costco story is funny. Oh, it gets better. I can't. It takes too long. It just the New York Times thing. It just depends on whether or not they go through with it. I'm really hoping that they do because I think people really need to know about automobiles. So, what do I think of the fate of the ID4? From what I understand, there's a facelift coming, and I would really like to see it happen. I actually really like the ID4, its driving dynamics and all that kind of stuff, and it's very, very roomy. I just don't like the user interface. So let's hope the ID4 gets the mid-cycle refresh that it deserves. 2026 Model Y, Juniper, having some noises in the front suspension. I've heard that was a common problem. Yes, I've heard that too. Common with Teslas, but they've replaced, but you still have the issue. Well, I'm sorry to hear that because that's an expensive car, but keep on them, okay? Because it's a new car, you paid a lot of money for it, and you need to be on them, all right? And I hope that works out for you. You're on your search for the let's see here. They said it was canceled. No, there is rumor that it might be canceled if you're talking about the EV sports car for Porsche. So we'll see. Bernard, thank you very much. I very much appreciate it. I thought maybe you were yawning, but that's ha 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 ha. Let's see. But thank you very, very much. SLK23, thanks, man. Really appreciate it. I'm sorry I'm going through this fast because I've been at this for a long time and I guess I'm boring people. Love the Porsche model you have on the table. Is it the same color? It is. It is the same color. It is exactly the same as my car. There's a real lag with this video, so it's going to take a while. But yes, this is it. Which I thought was very cool when I bought it. What I really wanted when I bought my Taycan was chalk. Chalk is a beautiful color, but this one, the one that I got, was outfitted so nicely. I just couldn't pass it up. Do you really need more power with a manual? You know what? I personally, I don't like powerful cars with a manual transmission. I would rather have an automatic transmission because at that point, there's so much power. There's too many things to do. I'm not particularly bright and fast thinking. So I prefer high performance cars with a PDK transmission, or in the case of mine, a 2-speed transmission or no transmission. I love the Miata with the manual transmission. Love it. It's just so much fun. GV60. I have a friend that's buying a GV60. She's supposed to be getting it any day. She's very excited about it. Hi, Craig. Looks good to me. Okay. Hello from the UK. Hello in the UK. Hope everything is okay. And that you don't hate Americans. Looking for a good used EV. You're thinking about a used iX3 previous generation. That never came to the United States, so I don't know what to tell you there. But you guys have all of the Chinese brands and all that kind of stuff, so I would look at that. It's tough enough for me to keep up with, American brands and what's sold in the United States. I look at what's sold in Europe and all, but man, there's so much stuff that we don't get. Okay, I'm going to go through these things really fast because I need to leave in the next 5 or 10 minutes, okay? Okay, your voice is so soothing. Really? It's the Voelk voice, right? My dad has it. My brothers have it. It is what it is. I don't know that anybody's ever said soothing, but thanks. Escalade, Navigator, or Grand Wagoneer. Boy, all the different things. Personally, I'm just going to go with, personally. I love the interior of the Navigator, and considering that is where you are spending most of your time and you're looking at everything, I always feel like interiors are very, very important. Wish the Forester Hybrid had new infotainment like the Outback. Me too. The Starlink system is very laggy and it's very unpredictable, so it'll get there eventually, but yeah, me too. Feelings between a Passport or a CX-50 turbo or hybrid. Very different vehicles. The CX-50 is more car-like, and the hybrid is obviously going to be a lot more efficient. The turbo is going to be more of like, say a BMW X3 type of thing. Whereas the Passport, it certainly doesn't feel like a 4Runner, right? It feels more car-like than a 4Runner, which personally I don't really care for so much. I know everybody loves 4Runners, but the Passport feels a little bit more trucky. It's also larger. Like, that's a wide vehicle. So again, test drive, go out and look at them. They're different vehicles. So, I think you'll come to that conclusion once you get out there. Thoughts on all these new EVs from Toyota? They changed their tunes, but you got me. Like, when I found out that the new Highlander was all EV, I was like, are you kidding me? This was a company that was dragged kicking and screaming into the EV world. I think we all know that. I'm dumbfounded. I literally had other automakers ask me, what the hell's going on? Where did this come from? And I can't tell you. It's crazy. The new Highlander looks pretty cool, though. I'm very interested in driving that. So, yeah, it's a mystery. There's supposedly a Lexus LFA, LFR EV coming soon. I don't know. I know that there's the new supercar is coming out, but I don't know what the drivetrain is on it yet. I tend to, I peek into the future so I know what's going on. But with something like that, that's really, really rare, I'm kind of hands off until it's more there. Graham Quigley, thanks so much. That's awfully generous. You're a founder of a software company and have been grinding away building my company for years. So, yeah, right? There is a dedication and there's a certain amount of love and you do it out of passion. I hope your software company is wildly successful because I know what it's like to build something. I have great admiration for anybody who builds anything from scratch. I think a lot of people don't understand how much work it is. But thanks, man. That's awfully generous of you. Great chat. Thanks, Craig. Can't speak for all of the UK, but I certainly don't hate America. We're living in crazy times. We really are. Blue skies. You are not alone. Considered Chinese EVs, but concerned about long-term reliability and support. Yeah, I don't know. We don't get them in America, and so they're kind of off my radar screen. But anyways, folks, thanks for joining me. I'm going to shut this live chat down. I'm also starting to lose my voice. I haven't hydrated properly today. But so again, there will be a video next week, and it's the Mustang Mach-E GT. It's revised, and I was just kind of curious. I kind of like the Mustang Mach-E. I like the fact that it looks like a normal car. It looks like it was sculpted from clay. It doesn't look like it came directly off of a CRT screen. And I think the hairs on the back of your neck know when something was crafted with love. And design is important to me. But so that's coming. And then a couple weeks after that, I got to drive the Roswell Green Chevrolet Corvette E-Ray. And I literally had to put a car cover over it because people were stopping and staring at it on my street, and then other people were honking to get them going. So it's a great vehicle. I'm giving you a preview. It's awesome. It's a little bit too much car for me on a regular basis. And, not that I like practical cars, but it's not very practical. But anyways, okay, have a good night. Yes, I am. I'm healing very well. I think I've walked probably 2 miles today, and I'm pretty much pain-free. So anyways, thanks, folks. Everybody on this channel is a terrific member. I do have people at events when I go to other auto writers who swear that I edit all of the comments and get all of the hateful stuff out. And I don't. I think like maybe 1 or 2 a month or two. This is a really good community, and thanks for being part of it. Really do appreciate it. All right. How did Martin handle that vet? Martin loved that vet. Both Rob and Martin drove the vet. We all 3 went out there because everybody wanted to drive the vet. The vet is awesome. And you know what? Even I think the one that I drove was $124,000, an absolute screaming deal for, considering what that car is. It's deep as Lake Superior as far as technology and performance goes. You can't even test the performance dynamics on public roads because you should go to jail if you are. Simple as that. So, all right, guys, thanks. And I will probably do another live talk 2 weeks from now. Yes, I am going to have a wonderful dinner. I'm having meatloaf that I got at Costco. All right, gang. Talk to you later.